Merhaba, come with me into Sakarya University. Hi, welcome to Sakarya University. My name is Donaldson and I'm a visiting professor here. Sakarya is absolutely a beautiful campus. I wish you could be here with me right now. There's a beautiful lake down below and the mountains are covered in snow. In Turkey, they say this is a lemon day, meaning that the air is clear, the sky is blue, it's crisp, but the sun looks like a lemon. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. Thank you for joining me here. Welcome to this beautiful state-of-the-art conference center here at Sakarya University. Today we're going to talk about online learning, or e-learning is what some people call it. We're going to talk about active learning. Active learning is really important. And we're also going to talk about the flipped classroom.
Hello, Anna. How are you? Good to see you.
Good seeing you.
Good to see you. Yeah, please have a seat.
Thank you.
Anna, active learning is very popular all around the world. What is your definition of active learning?
That's a great question about active learning. My students often ask me that. I think the best way of describing it is to think about the opposite of that, and that's passive learning. That's the way I was brought up, and perhaps you were also brought up with the idea the teacher's in the front of the class, they're feeding you all the information, you take notes and go home and you come back and take a test. So you're not actively involved with your own learning. In active learning, you want the students to be making meaning of that. We know in brain-based research that you can either pay attention or you can make meaning. And they need activities, those kind of things to make the meaning. A lot of times I'll use things like case study or class discussions so that they're actively involved with it. Also, the more that you can have the students' learning experience go back to their own lives and their own future, I think that has value. In a classroom that is active, you know it's active because it's noisy.
Yeah.
You want that noise, you want that collaborative effort going on, that synergy you get in those kind of situations. A lot of the what we call the old-fashioned teachers, they like a silent classroom, nobody asks a question, nobody says anything. That's not my idea of teaching or learning.
Anna, I understand your definition. Can you provide us some examples of active learning tasks for us?
Absolutely. When we talk about active learning, it's where the students are involved, they're really busy. I think one of my favorite examples is I was teaching a unit on different learning theories, and we had talked about behaviorism and situated cognition and constructivism. So I challenged my students, I made them go into 3 separate groups. We had our behaviorists, we had the situated cognition, we had the constructivists. And then they were to learn everything they could about that learning theory. And then we brought them together for a class and they had a debate where they did not know what my questions were going to be. The joy of that, them being so involved with learning in depth about the theories, my behaviorists came dressed as B.F. Skinner with lab coats, and they brought 2 live rats to class. And then the situated cognition group, they came dressed like amoebas, you know, the real...
Yeah.
Okay, and then the last group, my constructivists, all showed up as hippies. So they really got into that, where they had owned that learning, and that's the kind of things you want to do, where they're participating, they're active, and that to me was a great class.
Students should be active in that learning?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What is the role of professors, teachers.
Okay, this is my belief, one of several, but the fact that if you give them information, it remains information. Data goes to information. That's it. That's as far as it goes. What you want to do is reach that level of knowledge. To me, knowledge does not happen until you internalize it.
Okay.
So when you can relate that information to you, then it has value because then you own it. One of the things I'll have students do is go out, tell me the job you want when you walk out of the university, go and find that job description, keep it with you through your years at the university, and just start checking off those requirements that they have. They own that, it's personal, that's something that they have in front of them.
Can students tell their teachers, I need to learn these topics? Is it possible, this kind of?
I know Turkey has a different educational system, so you have to be aware of cultural norms.
Yeah.
I will share that there's some instructors in the United States that would say, no, you're going to do what I do. My feeling is when we talk about constructivism and all of that, the students figure out what they need to know.
Yeah.
And they kind of map their own path. This is something that they're really interested in, and so I work with them, and I think that's what we need to do. We have to remember we are preparing students for jobs that do not exist today. So they need to figure out what direction they're going. I heard a wonderful quote the other day that I absolutely love. It says, they said, don't ever ask a child what they want to do. What are you going to be when you grow up? Ask them what problem you want to solve.
Okay, what is the differences among behaviorist teacher, cognitivist teacher, and constructivist teacher?
Okay, good question. You should have been in my class.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Well, behaviorist, and I find out, it's really fun, because I find out no matter who you say you are, okay?
Yeah.
You're gonna teach from the bucket that has all three of them.
Yeah.
Behaviorism does work.
Yeah.
You know, you find out what rewards they're looking for, and you make sure that's the positive or the negative reinforcement. Behaviorism is what we've seen in the past, and it usually has a negative connotation. You know, you're right, you're wrong, that's it. But that's not really what's going on. But I have some of that, but I kind of back off on it. Situated cognition is more the environment, the context, the social environment that they're learning in. And the situation is going to change their learning. So, and that was a midpoint. And then constructivism is the biggie far as the idea that you're constructing. You're building upon the student's prior knowledge. I said one of the really worst things we can do is teach students something they already know. So as instructors, we need to know their level, where they're at. Again, like you had asked, where they're headed, what they want to do, and then have them, they're part of the process then. It isn't in a vacuum.
Okay, which one is more suitable for active learning? Behaviorist, cognitivist, or constructivist?
We can use all three, but I think more of a constructivist approach. But then there's also connectivism.
Connectivism, yeah, you're right.
That's the new kid on the block. So connectivism is having students learning from each other through social media. It's a great learning tool. We get a little nervous about it sometimes, but it's a wonderful learning tool, and where they're building upon the knowledge of their peers, and then we as instructors are just another resource. We're not guiding the dance. We're not the lead in the dance. You know, we're in there as another resource. So connectivism we're seeing more and more of because of the influence of social media.
Okay. Anna, what is e-learning?
Good question. We call it e-learning or online learning, and it comes in different varieties. The most extreme example is where you do not deal with your students in person. It's all done over the internet, and it's synchronous or asynchronous. Synchronous means you could have a classroom and you're all online together. Asynchronous means that you may have some discussion or maybe presenting materials, and then they look at it whenever it's convenient for them. Any place, any time, we say. So, and then the other extreme is what we call blended or hybrid. I think we use hybrid here in Turkey more. And that's where part of your classes are online and part of them are face-to-face. For somebody who's never taught online, my recommendation is to start with a simple hybrid, where the first class and the last class you always want to have face-to-face.
Face-to-face, yeah.
But a good example of, we say putting your toe in the water, starting very slowly, would be having 1 or 2 guest lecturers come in and have the students prepare questions for that guest. And then, you know, the guest has been giving them in advance, and then the guests can respond, and then the students can interact in an online, you know. And for the teacher, we say it's teaching in your jammies, so.
What is the difference between e-learning and distance education? People always confuse that.
It's basically the same. To me, it's the same. You know, I was at a conference one time, and everyone was arguing, is it e-learning, is it online learning, is it distance ed, is it distance learning? We finally decided just to call it Mabel. You know, just call it Mabel and then go from there. So.
But I participated in some international conferences. Some people say that e-learning is a part of distance education because they say distance education is like umbrella. And e-learning is one of part of this umbrella. Are you agree with that?
It's a matter of semantics at that point. Point, because I want to know what the other spokes of that umbrella are.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I don't think there's many other spokes. I think that's primarily it.
Because we have to clarify distance education and e-learning. So you say that both of them are same meaning for you.
To me. And again, I'm talking from my experience, and I've been doing this for many years. So, the main thing is that you understand that you have the ability to reach people that you normally, they could not come to a classroom.
Yeah, you're right.
And what we're finding is more and more of our students are non-traditional. They're older people coming back to school, they want to have a career change, or their children have left home and they want to start a career. So we're getting older people and adult learners, and so it's a different approach. And these are people that maybe could not be in the classroom.
Anna, what do you see as a future?
I think the future is online learning. I have no doubt about it. In our country, we talk about brick and mortar. That's the institution, the university itself. And I think the buildings are going to go away. One of the online universities that does not have a campus in our country, one of the things they say is, come to our university, you'll never have to pay for the climbing wall in the gym. So I think we're going to see more and more of that. People want to learn when they're ready to learn. It's just-in-time learning. So if you have a night shift and come home at 4 in the morning, you want to take your lessons then. Or somebody who works during the week and they want to have their lessons on the weekends. So I think this is something we're going to see more and more of. We're seeing more elementary schools and high schools going online now. And I think this is the idea of, we really like convenience. And as long as the quality is kept high, one of the problems in the past is there was some things out there that were not high quality. And so people were very hesitant. I think we've solved that problem now, and there's some really amazing programs that are available.
Anna, I hear that some companies in Turkey, Europe, and United States, they discriminate people who get their degrees from distance education.
Yeah, and that still continues, unfortunately, parts of our country, and I understand other countries including Turkey. We're finding it less than it was in the past. We've had some questionable universities that went online, and we call them in our country diploma mills.
Diploma mills,
You know, you
yeah.
pay your money, we'll
Yeah,
give you a
right.
diploma.
Yeah.
But there are some exceptions to that. We're seeing more and more of the idea of recognition being
Yeah.
given to those top universities.
Yeah.
Plus, I think it's really important that a lot of the top universities in our country also have online programs. So it isn't just, you know, Harvard that,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
but what we also find, an interesting thing we're starting to see in our country, has to do with badges. Are you familiar with badges in Turkey?
Yeah.
Okay, that's where the student proves they can perform a skill.
Skills, yeah.
Not that they know the theory, but they can actually apply it, that they can perform that skill. And so they get badges saying you have mastery at this
Master,
skill, say a web development or networking a system, that you have a badge for that. And some companies now are saying, I don't want a diploma, I want the badges.
Badges, yeah.
I don't care what you know about theory, I want to know what you can do.
Yeah.
So we have some companies that are going away from higher ed
Yeah.
and going the other route. So I don't think we can say in the future what's going to happen.
Yeah, I hope the companies will not discriminate people, you know.
Yeah.
Anna, what do you advise for faculty who ever taught online?
Okay, if you've never taught online, it's daunting. Yeah, but there's a lot of resources out there to help. But I always tell faculty, no matter whether you're new faculty or been around forever, that if you haven't taught online right at this point, you will in the future, or you will plan your retirement party.
Yeah.
Those are your two options because it's so prevalent. The best advice I can give to anyone talking about stepping into the pond, teaching online, is to take an online course yourself until you have that experience and know the frustration. You sent a message to a teacher and it's been 20 minutes and they haven't answered you. You know, they need to know those kind of things that go on that you have to experience.
Okay. MOOCs is getting more important all over the world. They start talking about MOOCs is better system in online learning or e-learning. Sakarya University has MOOCs projects, like Harvard has edX.
Yeah.
Sakarya University established SAUX projects. It is a MOOCs project. What is your opinion about MOOCs?
Okay, it's a great
Are we on the
question.
right way or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a great way that you're going that way.
Yeah.
I commend the university for making that commitment. I'm always asked this question, so it's not the first time I've answered it. I believe MOOCs are an evolutionary step along the way.
Okay.
We won't end up at the end in 20 years, you're not going to see MOOCs, you're going to see something else. It's
Something
going
else.
to metamorphose into something else. I think it's the stages going through. My concern about MOOCs is because of the volume of students, potential volume of students, and that you don't have that teacher interface. You're learning with other students who are also interested in that subject, which I think is really good, which is now moving us back more toward connectivism. But I'm concerned about missing out on that faculty direct intervention. But again, in our country, they were really big. They're kind of, kind of on the hype cycle.
Yeah.
They're kind of going down, but I think they're going to come back, but in a different form.
Okay. What's your last words and suggestions about e-learning and MOOCs for students and faculties?
Okay. I think it's really important. The thing I love about online learning that you don't necessarily get in a face-to-face class is the idea of collaboration.
Collaboration. That's a good
and if I
point.
can share, this is the book, Engaging the Online Learner.
Online learning, yeah.
And the most recent book is talking about continuing to engage the online learner. A lot of universities in our country have adopted this method. It's a model of how to engage students.
Engage students, yeah.
And it's engaging students through activities, talking about active learning.
Active learning, yeah.
But using those activities to have students come together and create collaborative groups. And we
Yeah.
have 5 phases that you go through in the model, and each one moves them closer and closer. The teacher, the faculty member is very close with phase 1, and by the time it's phase 5, they've moved out and kind of handed it over to the student. So this is one example of collaboration and preparing our students. What I love about the second book is we've added, this was 4 phases, the first book. The second book adds a 5th phase, which looks at what happens after you leave the classroom, the reflective part of it, and how are you going to take these skills you've learned, transfer them out into the real world.
So can we say that we can use, or faculties can use active learning in e-learning? And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the thing you need to realize, I talk about engaging the online learner. You first have to engage the online faculty member.
That
comes
that's a good
first.
point, yeah.
If you don't have the passion, you're not going to give it to your students, and it's really important.
Anna, can students accomplish their goals, learning goals in active learning environment?
Yes, absolutely, because to me, the value of what we teach in a class isn't what happens in the class, it's what happens when they walk out the door. So what we're teaching them is skills that are transferable into the real world. We're doing activities that are very collaborative. We're working with groups of people together.
Yeah.
And that's preparing them for the workplace, wherever they end up, because they will always be working with teams.
Yeah.
And we're trying to instill in them that real energy about learning. We talk about making lifelong learners.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. You have to have them interested. You've got to get them excited. You have to have them motivated. And I believe motivation basically is only intrinsic. The idea of being outside yourself, extrinsic motivation goes back to the behaviorist in one degree. But I think true motivation comes from within, and you've got to light that spark. Get that flame going, that they're going to carry that throughout their life.
Active learning is like learning by doing, or?
Yeah, it's application.
Yeah,
We
application.
spend too much time in the classroom teaching theory and not enough teaching practice and application. I don't care if you know the skills, I want to know that you can perform.
Yeah.
So a lot of universities now are looking at performance standards.
Yeah.
Not so much test standards. I want to see that you can do the skills and demonstrate the skills that you've learned.
Okay. Anna, thank you, really. What should I look at to know it is active learning?
Okay. When you see it, you will know it.
How?
Okay, by the energy you feel. There's an incredible energy when the whole class is working together. When a teacher is going this way to the students, that's one way, and there's no energy. There's no matter how hard they try, because these students, half of them are asleep, half of them are on their mobiles, and maybe you've got 1 or 2. But in an active classroom, everyone's involved. You have them working in small groups, applying what they've learned already, making it real, and then coming back and reporting back to the class. So they've got energy here, energy here, energy here, instead of this little bit. You've got, take 30 people in the class, and it just multiplies. And again, I said it's noisy. People are active, they're moving around. It's just a very, very exciting type of environment to be in.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.